Well. That was some kind of football. I don't even know what to call it. We kind of we had a gut feeling this could happen tonight, but I didn't think it would be this bad. Um, there was zero resistance from this BC Lions defense, like none, and uh, looks like we're 5 starting receivers down now. Um, maybe a starting right tackle down with no help coming. We got the sixth game is loaded up with offensive linemen. We got one DB on the practice roster. I don't know where the Lions go from here. This is this is pretty depressing way to start the season. I gotta say, after all the expectations that we had, 41-27 loss for the BC Lions today in Hamilton, and it really wasn't even that close. First play of the game, we talked about. Let's throw up our 3 keys right now. Sorry, I forgot to load this before, but we'll throw it back up. So, we talked about, keeping Isaiah Wooden in check. First play of the game, he takes it to midfield. They hand the ball off. Lions stopped him, a 3-yard gain. Next play, bomb. Touchdown. Great way to start the game. Great way to give your defense some confidence, that's already had its confidence rattled. So right away, our keys to the game are out the window. Take away first down efficiency. We didn't do that. Force them into second and long. We didn't do that very often. Bring pressure. We brought no pressure. Could not muster any pressure. We can just go down the list here, guys, and just cross everything off as X, 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 X. I'm interested to hear what you guys got to say off the top here, man, because I'm perplexed right now.
I'll say there's one positive. There's one positive out of this, and that's the fact that Bolden actually had some good returns tonight.
Yeah, Bolden.
That's the only one out of that list, Brian.
Yeah. There was a couple other positives too. I mean, Nick Senecal had a great game for his first CFL game. 2 touchdowns, one in garbage time, but really both in garbage time. The game was over by the time he scored those 2 touchdowns, but couldn't finish drives. Even, the offense was kind of doing their thing there and moving the ball, but settling for threes again. I just don't know, guys. Cole, your thoughts early on here as we get going. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of people in the chat that feel like they want to vent, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot of fire this guy and fire those guys comments, and it's starting to become more of a reality that we might start considering some of those things.
Yeah, vent away, people. Come in the chat and let us know your thoughts. I know we have a ton, and we're going to get them out here tonight, which is the best part about hosting something like this. We're able to come on and get our thoughts and frustrations out, which I think we will tonight. I would imagine this will be, depending on how things go, probably up towards a 90-minute show or something like that, where there's a lot of frustration vented. But I think it just comes back to, the defense is one thing, and I think the defensive struggles were maybe a little bit more expected than the offensive struggles. But that being said, with the struggles right now offensively, and I guess you could say maybe the injuries offensively, we couldn't really afford to have those struggles offensively and to have a slow start. We kind of expected the offense to hit the ground running, to have a good start to the season, to really control the game, and to really be a big part of why the Lions were winning a lot of these games. And now when you're playing shorthanded, you're not only losing receivers now, you're losing offensive linemen. Not only Dejan Allen doesn't finish the game, Brandon Yates doesn't finish the game as well. You have Nathan Cherry, a defensive lineman, having to finish the game at right guard, I believe. So, things aren't looking great, that's for sure. But it is still early in the season, so hopefully by the end of the show, we could hopefully find a little bit of positive. As you mentioned, Brian, it was nice to see Nick Senecal, probably the lone positive coming out of this one, to in a CFL debut, go over 100 yards, the 2 touchdowns, as you mentioned. And it's likely that he's going to be needed over the next month of the season, minimum, right? I mean, the 6th game is going to pile up even more with Passant likely going on there. Who knows? McInnes is probably going to likely have to gut it out for the next couple of weeks, but he's dealing with kind of a lower leg, lower body injury going into the signage there. Hatch, obviously, with a hammy. Like that's nothing to kind of like come back and get right back up to full speed. So Senecal is going to have to be, put to the test and thrown to the fire. And this team doesn't have any more margin for error to really slip for many games, right? We said, going into touchdown Kelowna. And I think ultimately that's what probably we'll end up talking about in terms of some of these decisions and firings that come up. Because I think us as fans maybe feel a little bit differently than in the building, but I'm excited to chat about some of those possibilities here tonight. Bryce, how are you feeling?
I'm honestly a little bit at this point. I'm disappointed is the understatement. I think it doesn't even sum it up. Like, this is an utter disaster right now, the way that this has started. And I get everyone's going to say, oh, we only lost by 4 points to the Riders. It wasn't really a 4-point game in my mind against the Riders. And we talked about that when that game happened a week ago. I look at this and I go, you listen to the things that were coming out of training camp. Hey, the offense is on level 2 point, whatever. It was supposed to start quick. We were going to see this awesome 2-back set with Horvath and Butler. And that hasn't come true. And I get there's been injuries. Believe me, I completely understand that. But it even looked shaky before a bunch of the injuries did set in. Then you go to the defensive side, and all we heard was how great this defense was. It was frustrating Nathan in camp. And you see what's going on the field, and it's like something doesn't add up here. I personally think it's a lack of talent. I don't think the Lions are as talented as they were last year. And they were supposed to be better. That was the key thing. Casey Sales, Darnell Sankey, and all these guys coming in were supposed to change kind of this defense and put it over the top. Casey Sales has basically been invisible. Like, you might as well have, Brian, you said it earlier before he came on, Christian Covington had the same amount of effect, right? Like, and this is the thing, Darnell Sankey, like we let go of Micah Alway. Like, where's the, you heard the arrow up and Sankey saying, I don't mind telling guys what's what kind of a thing. And I'll be that guy. At least with Micah Alway, there was some fire there. I haven't seen any fire out of the Lions at all. And usually when you're getting your teeth kicked in, someone's going to at least do something. I haven't seen any of that from this team. It's like they're just rolling over at this point and kind of going like, all right, like, we're going to get our teeth kicked in. Let's get in. And Cole, to your point, like, the team just looks so out of it as a group. There's no communication on defense. They just Jackson Finley even looks lost for a guy that last year towards the end of the year, we were going, hey, we've got a superstar safety potentially in the making. I don't know, guys. There has to be drastic changes. You cannot look at these two games, especially with the defense, and go, yeah, we'll just keep rolling it back. And Brian, to your point, where are the reinforcements coming from? They're on a bunch.
No, there's nobody that we can bring in at the moment. I mean, I want to stick with the defense for a while because last week we kind of like the secondary, but this front seven is horrible right now. Like Matthew Betts, I don't even know if he had a tackle tonight. Levi Bell, haven't noticed him at all in these two games. Like, this is a guy that came in last year and contributed, but he's not doing anything. Casey Sales, like you said, like nothing. Where's Jonah Tavai? Nothing. Like, all four of those guys, like, we're not getting anything up front. Sankey's not contributing as we thought he would, or that we were told he would. Micah Aoi, I can tell you right now, I noticed Micah Aoi a hell of a lot more last year than I've been noticing Darnell Sankey this year. Maybe Montreal knew something we didn't. Maybe Darnell Sankey's not the player he once was. He certainly hasn't proven to be so far. I mean, we're going to be critical on this show because this is not good enough. It's just not good enough. And I'm sitting here getting ready to go to Kelowna for 9 days, spend a bunch of money, and I got a feeling I'm going to be watching two blowouts in Kelowna too, because like we say, there's nothing coming down the pipe here, guys. We've got one defensive back on the practice roster right now.
Yeah, Brian, I'm glad that you mentioned the defensive, or I guess I should say the front seven, because I think a lot of us will tend to pile on the secondary tonight, and I think it's rightfully so because they did get embarrassed tonight. I said it before the show, like that felt like routes on air for Boliev Mitchell. Like, he wasn't even concerned with the secondary down there. But to me, how many times did I talk about it to you guys on the show, right? Of like how high expectations I had on the front seven, right? And I think it starts up front more so than I think maybe some of those guys in the second level, but they're still to not to be have consequences as well. But Sony Chama is a guy that you didn't mention as well. That's kind of been far too quiet over his tenure. I feel like he pops up from time to time, mixes a splash play, and then he's quiet for a month, 6 weeks of the season. Levi Bell was a huge disappointment here through 2 games. As you mentioned, Brian, played a ton of snaps for us. And, now looking back, we kind of were, the Bradley and I is not going to come up to Canada. Well, good thing we have Sione Tuama, we have Levi Bell. They've been virtually invisible through the first 2 weeks. So maybe it's a on us that not having a guy like Bradley and I in our back pocket to have in that rotation. You look in the interior, Casey Sales has been invisible. He hasn't been seen at all. They trapped him on a play. Obviously, maybe knowing a little bit of inside information, he comes upfield very hot. They're able to trap him. Jonah Tobias is another guy who just coming off the CFL's top 50 list. I was very vocal about him being a sleeper, should have been on there. I still think that, 16 more games to be played. Hopefully these guys are able to round into form. But that being said, Brian's 100% freaking right, man. Like, these guys deserve to hear this shit tonight, deserve to hear the criticism tonight because they played like shit. And there was no sign of resistance, no sign of, hey, man, like, I kind of was like hopeful of like, maybe, hey, somebody goes in the locker room and lights a fire in these guys' ass. They came out and there was nothing, obviously, that was said in the locker room. There was no Darnell Sankey standing up in front of the group. There was no Buck Pierce getting up in front of the team or anything like that. They came out flat once again. As you said, Brian, there was 2 garbage time touchdowns that made this game a lot closer than it was because it was a 4 field goal game performance by the offense until that point. And there was no resistance from the defense. So it's extremely frustrating, as I said, from a front 7 perspective to bring it back there because I had high expectations. I think that was going to be a big reason why the secondary wasn't going to be as much of a problem. Hopefully that, Betts and company were going to be able to get some pressure, get home. But if they don't send extra guys, even when they're sending extra guys, they're not getting home, which is crazy to see. The Curly Gittens Jr. touchdown, they send 6 guys. They're in man coverage. Jackson Finley buzzes down to step up to Curly Gittens. He's flat-footed and Curly runs right by him. So it's like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you send the pressure, you're not getting home. If you're putting your guys into those man-to-man situations like we asked for, but leading to this game, right? Sometimes we're going to have to put our guys into tougher situations, man-to-man situations where they're up close and personal. Jackson got beat twice. Now, to maybe be fair to Jackson, that's not the type of player he is. He's more of a post safety, keep everything in front of him, come down to stuff, opposed to him kind of wanting to come down and react and be an athlete. That being said, Jackson plays to a much higher standard than that. So I know he's not going to be happy with the way he started the season. So I'm curious what you think on the front 7, Bryce, and if they're able to maybe even find a way to improve things moving forward.
So I'll kind of break it down with this front 7 because one thing I'm going to talk about is Matthew Betts. When I remember at one point, I posed a comment to both of you on the show when I was a viewer of the show about Brent Johnson and Matthew Betts and who was the better Canadian edge that we had. There's one distinct difference that is now coming up drastically between the two. Brent Johnson could dominate games without another edge beside him that could create havoc. Brent could dominate those games. He did it for years. Chris Wilson was never an elite pass rusher. That wasn't his thing. So what did Brent Johnson do? He had to dominate. You look at that 06 team, he dominated and won Defensive Player of the Year and all those things. Matthew Betts is clearly a very dependent player on the other side. He needs somebody on the other side that can at least take some of the pressure away from him. And to your point, Cole, there is nobody on this roster currently that can do that. And so Matthew Betts is now struggling because I don't know if Matthew Betts has the counters and the things to handle having teams mark him as we have to double, slide all the protection there and everything because we don't care because no one else is getting home. At least Casey Sales was supposed to bring some sort of pressure from the interior, and there has been zero of it. And to your point, like you look at that second play of the game to, Keandre Smith for the touchdown. Bo Levi was able to drop back, step up, and stand flat-footed in the pocket without even moving and launch it 56 yards. How many times did you see, even when Bo had to move his feet, that he was able to reset, feel comfortable, and throw another strike? There was no panic in him. There was no, okay, like, I'm off my spot. I got to get out of here and move. Like, we never saw Bo Levi had to run tonight. Like, and he's not a runner, and so no one moved him off a spot enough to even threaten him. Like, you cannot win in the Canadian Football League without some sort of pass rush. And there was nothing, period, zero. There has been nothing in the last 2 weeks. And now you're going to go up against a quarterback who can run in Vernon Adams, who can launch the ball over your head to targets running down the field like a Jalen Philpott and a Reggie Bagleton. And I agree with Brian here. Like, there's a good chance you're going to get blown out in the next 2 games as well because your defense isn't going to be able to flip a switch and all of a sudden look like they're, the unit that finished out last year. My question is, and I think Q-Man brought it up in here too, is I think Benavides has overcomplicated this defense to an extent. You need to take this right back down to the basics, like to the studs. This is how we're going to play cover 3 match. This is how we're going to do this. Like, we are going to be so freaking basic because you can't run the other stuff. Like them running into too high tonight with Williams or Lee back there with Jackson. It was like, really, that's what you're going to do? You're going to go to 2 high looks in Canadian football where now you're going to just let Bo have the middle of the field all day long. What did he do? He fired one right down the side, the seam to Kenny Lawler on a freaking dart route. Like, what are we going to do here? There's no magic recipe for this except, hey, they failed in their scouting this offseason in a lot of ways for pro personnel and for, I would say, American talent acquisition as well. The Canadian talent has been good. DeMontenac, Senecal, they've done a good job on the Canadian side. Their American side and their free agents within the league, they have absolutely, utterly failed.
Yeah. And I think they were, we got to talk about Nathan Rourke's salary here too. And some of and Betts' salary and some of these guys that are making all the money, because that's hampering them from going out and getting those free agents. Now, obviously nothing's going to change with that this year, but I think in the offseason coming up, they got to look at that and make sure that this team can be competitive in all areas, not just at quarterback. And Nathan Rourke is going to have to probably take a pay cut if he wants to get some of these guys here. Anyway, that's neither here nor there right now. But like, I totally agree. Like, there's nothing coming. And the only thing that I can think of that might be a saving grace is that this team has hit rock bottom after tonight. And that, some paint is torn off those shiny new walls in Surrey. And somebody's made accountable. Like, we cannot just keep on keeping on here with the same lineup. Somebody's got to take the fall for this, whether it's Mike Benavides, whether it's a player, something has to change. It's just not good enough. It's not professional football. Like, when these guys come back to BC Place, it's going to be freaking empty unless they can turn this around mighty quick, because Vancouver does not support this kind of stuff. It's just not going to be a good look for the Lions when they come back to BC Place to face the Toronto Argonauts on July 25th. Like, they've got to get some changes made here. Robert Carter Jr., please come home. Sure. But when is that going to happen? Like, it's...
And just to interrupt here quickly, Brian, as much as, we all mentioned this last week on the show, we mentioned it a few times of Robert Carter, please come home, please be our savior. We also got to remember, folks, like, this is football. This is do your 1/12. This isn't one guy comes in and just magically is your fixer, your solution to everything. So as much as I think that would help things, does that stop the dam from breaking once again in 4 or 5 weeks, or in a postseason game where it matters the most? I still would have concerns. I think I think we could still be critical of the defense and a few players a little bit more, but I think it's the biggest thing in the fan base. And every time I brought it up last year during the show, I was always dumbed down about it. And it's the Benny situation. And I know there's a lot of, they look up to him, and Buck played under him as a player and stuff like this, and his mentorship means a lot in that building. And I'm not taking anything like that away, but at some point, you have to send a message through that building that this standard is not good enough. And it starts at the top before you get rid of players. I hate to break it to everybody, because yes, would we like to see maybe a Casey Sales get cut after 2 games? It's probably highly unlikely that through 2 games he's cut. So where's the most likely option that you're going to? It is your defensive coordinator to send a message to that building that this standard is not good enough. And it hasn't been good enough. I said it last week that RP got scapegoated, man. And every turn, forehand dumbs it down. Anybody that's close to that organization always, well, no, the Benny criticism is too much. The Benny criticism is too much. What for? Like, I don't get that as well. And I said it last week. He's a CFL retread that has been through the CFL over and over and over and again. And I'm not the young kid to be like, oh, well, old times football is in the past, because I understand that some people can adapt. But at some point, if you don't adapt, there isn't a place for you in the league at some point. And it feels like there hasn't been any adjustments. And the adjustments that Bryce mentioned that he did were stupid tonight because they went too high in it. It made no sense completely. You could see how uncomfortable Jackson was buzzing down into on the Keandre Smith touchdown that Bryce referenced to start the game. He looks incredibly awkward coming down. He misses his landmark. He gets way too close.
Falls on his face.
Yes, he gets way too close to the sideline because he feels like that the outside receiver is going to run maybe a deeper hitch or comeback, whatever it is. He totally loses where Keandre Smith is running to. His feet are stuck in the mud. He falls on his face, as Bryce said, and looks completely stupid. And it's like, well, that was your game plan for Bo Levi Mitchell. And as we talked about time and time again, and if we're talking about on the show, what was the team meeting like for Hamilton this week? I tweeted about it. They must have been like howling. They must have been like licking their chops looking at the secondary and the adjustments that they thought they were going to make because of this team and how they executed. Like, it was basically Bo Levi Mitchell got the ball, looked deep, and was just bombs over Baghdad tonight. And it was embarrassing, man. Like, it was embarrassing, especially because the offense was moving and we couldn't get a stop, couldn't get nothing. So to me, I've said it since RP got fired. I never thought RP should have been in that situation. You had a young upcoming coach who bleeds orange, who understands this organization through and through, and you got rid of him for somebody that's been here and we've seen what that defense has been like. So that's go ahead, Bryce.
Well, here's the one thing that worries me, Cole, and I am 100% in the same boat as you with the RP situation. I hope they don't scapegoat him right now and they bypass Benavides and go, oh, it's a defensive back issue. And that's what that honestly though scares me, because for Buck, and I'll be honest, I'm going to hold Buck to a standard. He is the head coach. This is his first head coaching gig. I get the relationship with Benavides. You have to, as a head coach, be able to make tough calls and tough decisions and put personal relationships aside. Right now, your defense, the way it ended the year and how it started this year have been absolutely god awful. And if you don't do something to shake it up and make these guys accountable, to Cole's point, and realize shit needs to change, you're going to coast through it, because now it's going to be looked at as the head coach doesn't have the guts to do the thing he needs to do.
And last thing, the playoffs were the playoffs. Go look at the record of that 6-game win streak or whatever in the regular season. It's Ottawa once, it's Toronto once. Like, as much as the defense improved and took steps forward, there was no Saskatchewan on that resume. There was no Montreal on that resume. Actually, there might have been Montreal, excuse me. I believe there was Montreal late. But in terms of the top offenses, they weren't slowing down anybody. Calgary was a drive away from knocking them out in the West semifinal. Yep. And what would the questions been then for Benny? Yeah. So to me, it's crazy that we've gotten this far, because the one constant has stayed the same. There's been moves. There's been change. Benny has been at the top. And I think at some point, if no players are going to get cut, there has to be a message sent. I think, unfortunately for us, we're probably going to have to wait until that second game after Kelowna, and things will have to actually hit rock bottom for things to be moved, because Brian just spoke with, like, there doesn't seem to be anybody that's even questioning that.
It's the move that makes the most sense too, and because you brought in Mark Washington, because you have Ryan Phillips, both of those guys have been DCs before, so it's the move that's the easiest to make. It sends a message that this standard is not good enough, and we're going with some younger, coaches that have done the job, but maybe have some new ideas. It's the easiest move to make at this point. Like, you have nobody on the practice roster that's going to come in and save the day right now.
Can I add one more thing? When Mark Washington and Ryan Phillips were both DCs throughout their tenures, they've had more successful defenses than Benavides has. Benavides' real claim to fame was that 2011 group that won the Grey Cup. And then there was a little bit into 2012 when he became the head coach, but really Mark and Ryan have had better defenses than Benny has when he has been a coordinator, quote unquote, for that period of time. And that's I think Benavides is a better special teams coordinator than he is a DC.
I was just going to say that.
Like, there you go. Promote Ryan or Mark and move Benny to specials, because our special teams coach apparently doesn't know how to teach the rules to our new freaking returner in his first game either. Like, I
couldn't believe that. After what happened last week, I could not believe that.
But even on top of that, Brian, like, how many times was Carl Meyer making tackles on kickoff? Like, how bad is that?
The Ticats would have had 3 more. Yeah, the Ticats would have had 3 more touchdowns if he didn't make those tackles. Like, they were shoestring last gasp kind of tackles. So And here's what I want to move on to next. And
I was gonna say,
Bryce, is you kind of spoke on this last weekend or last week on the show. Where has the scouting been? Like, we have no depth right now. And, the guys on our practice roster, we don't have any depth there. The guys that are starting right now simply aren't good enough. Where, like, we've talked about the Canadian talent on the team has improved. It's good. We're not worried about Canadian talent at the moment. But the Americans that we brought in are just, like, not contributing. And that falls on Ryan Rigmaiden and his scouting staff. How much responsibility does he need to take in all of this? And should the heat be on Ryan Rigmaiden a little bit? I mean, obviously, I don't think you're going to fire your GM in the middle of a season after 2 games, but, like, some serious questions have to be starting to be asked about why are the Lions not finding new talent? Like, you look at Winnipeg, you look at Edmonton, you look at Calgary. Calgary perennially finds new talent that come into this league and dominate. The Lions haven't done that in, I can't think of how many years it's been since, like, you go back, and we talked about this on the show last week as well, about the Roy Shivers years and the Roy Shivers and Wally Bono years. They were constantly bringing in guys like RP and Dante Marsh. Cam Wake. Like, where are these guys that Rob Murphy, like those kind of guys that come in and dominate as Americans? It hasn't been happening in BC for a few years now. And Ryan Rigmaiden has to start taking some responsibility for this.
Yeah, Brian, I think you mentioned a pretty good nugget last week on the show about his ties to Arena and maybe potentially whether it's blinding him, taking his time away from other scouting and other leagues. I think that could be definitely something to monitor. I think the big thing for me, and maybe I'm going to get a lot more slack for this because we have talked about it ad nauseum, but it just keeps coming back to the Gary Peters thing for me as well. Like, them doubling down on that. And we talked about it, I believe, with, I forget our guest, but being 1 year too early rather than 1 year too late. We were obviously 1 year too late. And now we're tied to this situation because Gary Peters is sitting on the sideline. And now our secondary can't cover anybody. I said it, PSA. PSA to anybody in the CFL. They should not respect BC Lions secondary.
Sorry, Van East, I can't agree with this. Other teams are finding guys. The Lions are not. I mean, yeah, there's probably more players going to the UFL. There's probably guys staying in college because they're getting paid. But, like, other guys are finding talent. Yeah. The Lions haven't done so in a couple of years, and they continue not to. So, yeah, I don't really agree with that comment. But second season in a row, BC starts the season looking unprepared and totally lost. Not good enough, Coach Buck Pierce. True. It's been a problem under Buck Pierce since he got here. Slow starts, not ready to play games, getting behind early in games, chasing in the season, chasing in the standings.
Same as Rick Campbell. In a lot of ways, guys, it's the same type of thing. They did the same thing. And like, the one thing I'm going to say about, the effect of the fact that they aren't finding the American talent is that's what kills your practice squad. Your practice squad generally is more American talent than it is Canadian talent because you want to have them ready and be able to pull them up. Like, I look back again, and this goes back to Brian's point about the Roy Shivers and Wally Bono year. You look at the 2016 that won that Grey Cup. They switched off Antonio Warren mid-season and picked up a random dude named Joe Smith. And the dude turned into one of the best running backs in the CFL that season alone. And they went from a guy that was an all-star the year before and Antonio Warren. Like, that is how good the American scouting was back then, to be able to pluck guys like that out of the blue and be like, yep, here we go. Here's another guy that can come in and be effective. And this is the thing that kills us right now is the UFL has ended, or is close to ending, I believe. And we're not in a point where we can go, yeah, we have guys that we can pull up right now. And, what are you going to do? What are you going to do at corner? Realistically, Russell and Colden are there. What are you going to do at corner? There's nobody right now you can pull up and be like, do you call Deontay Ruffin again? Like, he got cut pretty quickly. It wasn't even really a second thought. He was gone. And it's like, this dude was playing on Montreal last year. Like, to me, I think Ryan Rigmaiden owns a lot of this ownership right now of this issue with this roster because it is extremely top heavy with nothing underneath it.
Do you guys know if I share a video in here, will it play the sound?
Yeah. Sure.
Depends how you share it though. If you share it, Brian, as a like clip, like the intro video that you play, if you put it in that section and play it, it will. If you just bring it up on the screen as a shared thing, it won't.
Okay. Let me see. I'll work on this. I'll try and get it downloaded. I don't know if I can, but I was going to put Farhan. Farhan's done his Farhan cast. It's about 10 minutes long. I thought we could throw that up and have a listen to it, but
see if it works. It may work. It may be too big. I don't know how, but that's usually how you have to do it generally. But on another side, guys, like, you know, when we look at this team offensively, Nathan doesn't look comfortable. Oh, maybe it's going to work here.
Did we get sound?
Don't have sound. It's not even playing. Nope. I got no sound.
No, neither do I. Okay. Well,
but like, so that one red zone opportunity that we had, I think we were down. We'd put up 3 points at that point, maybe, and he misses Passant on the slant, throws it at his feet. Passant's open and it goes to the dirt. Okay, fine. Then he comes back the next play. All you have to do is throw the ball on the pylon for Butler to get it, and Butler walks into the end zone and he throws it behind. Those are passes. And at that point, he didn't have pressure in his face. Like, it was a clean pocket. Nathan has to make those throws, especially when you're struggling. A touchdown there changes a little bit of the flow of the game. It may not have ultimately changed the outcome of a loss or a win, but it at least gives you a fighting chance to stay in it when it's a walk-in touchdown for Butler. But because you throw it behind him, he's got to turn, and he takes a massive hit and drops the ball, and now we're kicking another field goal, which don't even get me started when we're down 21-27 and we're still kicking field goals inside their 10 instead of going for a freaking attempt at a touchdown. Like, cool, you turn the ball over and it's on their 5. Like, who cares? Like, you need points, as in not a field goal. You need a touchdown.
Oh, and then they go for it later in the game on their own 22-yard line, which made no sense down 3 scores. I thought that was totally gutless as well. Another thing that falls at the feet of Buck Pierce, because ultimately that is his decision, and ultimately it is read the room. Your defense couldn't stop a beach ball. Why in the hell are you not going for it in that situation? Field goals, they said it how many times in the broadcast? Field goals weren't going to beat Bully Levi Mitchell. It was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So it was
kidding.
Extremely infuriating at that point to get down there. I think this is a tough one for me, Bryce, because I have a ton of criticism for Nathan. I shouldn't say a ton, but I have area of criticism for Nathan. I think, to me, those are the Passant one bothers me a lot more than the JB one. But to me, and I think you can maybe relate to this as a quarterback, that's him pressing. And to me, that's him feeling like the weight of the team, the weight of the world's on his shoulders. He has to make every perfect throw. He has to be on the money here. And right, wrong, or indifferent, I think that played a little bit of a fact into it. Like I said, I think the Passant one for me is much more different. Had no pressure in his face. Passant's open by has separation by 5 yards. He throws it on the back side shoulder instead of the front side shoulder, or to the pylon in the corner, which is a touchdown. As you said, Bryce, I think you made a good point of, like, does that change the outcome of the game? Probably not. I think that makes a much more positive and easier pill to swallow because the game stays a little bit closer. We have that hope. Hey, Passant looked pretty good, which he did before the injury. The JB one I thought was a tough one for me, because I think maybe go back, Bryce, and take a look and maybe tell me what you thought. I thought the tackle as well as the edge rusher got in his face is why he put a little bit of air onto it. I agree with you. I thought he could have had a different arm slot and let it go to the pylon and led JB, opposed to kind of coming a little bit like prototypical, I guess, over the top a little bit more. So it's a bummer one, because in games like that, yes, he has to take blame, right? Because if that's a 14-10 ball game for the JV touchdown, or if that's a 21-17 football game after the Passant touchdown, it's much more different where, hey, if the defense, God forbid, can get a punt, which they did at some points, it's like, okay, well, now maybe we can squeeze in a field goal here or there. When you miss that, and then the team loses and it's bad, like you do have to take a little bit of the blame, especially you are the franchise quarterback. You're paid whoever's out there, you're paid to make those throws. So I think he definitely has to take some blame, but at the same time, I think you could feel that he was pressing out there and felt like he had to do everything.
The one thing I noticed on the Butler one that I think bothered me a lot was his footwork was bad. Like it was lazy. It was like catch and he, to your point, the tackle's right there. Like you need to get the depth of your drop. And you know this as well as I do, Cole. Like if you don't get depth and you're going to sit in the pocket there, then that ball needs to come out way sooner if it's going to be a one-step throw. And you need to be getting that. And there were points too in this game where I looked at Nathan and it's like, stop looking downfield and find your check down. Like he looked at Horvath on a swing and then looked away from him and took a sack. And it was like, dude, just throw the check down to Horvath. He might make a guy miss and go for an extra run. And to your point, I do think he's pressing. I think he's pressing on. He looks absolutely miserable. Like, I don't think I've seen, and even on the successful moments in the first game, this game, like Nathan doesn't look happy. He just looks like it's so much right now on him. And I think there's a lot. He was ranked the number one player in the league, right? Like that was the thing coming out. He's the number one player in the league. He's the MOCs. And then I think, and these players try so hard to tune out the social media and the analysis and all these kind of things. But I think what Milt Stiegel said before the Saskatchewan game has a lot of pressure on Nathan. He may never admit it, which good on him because guys aren't supposed to. But Stiegel said Nathan will always be judged until he wins a Grey Cup. He's always going to be that. And it's the same thing. I know it's stupid, but think about just in another retrospect. Look at how Dan Marino and Peyton Manning
It's because treated. Of how great he is. Which
exactly. It's regular seasons and everything. 100%.
It's unfair to him. 100%. But that's the echelon he sits in now.
Correct.
That's what he's done. As I said, made the post before the season. I don't think his prime's here yet. And yes, he hasn't had a great 2 games. Nathan Rourke is the least of my concerns. Now, 100%. that being said, with a healthy receiving core, I'm not too sure when that's going to be. The other thing I would say, to be very critical of Nathan and to call it how it is, I'm going to be his biggest supporter when he wins, when he's playing his big games. But when he doesn't have a good game, I think it's important to chat a little bit about it. And I defended him earlier too as well. The interception to Katsantonis.
Oh,
he completely missed the read because it's second and 8, and he goes to the 2 receiver side. He has McInnes run 10-yard out at the first down marker, and McInnes is wide open, and he throws corner into a high safety. And for one, the ball was not very good. It wasn't very accurate, and he had Justin McInnes underneath. So to me, as I said, that's him pressing. That's him down 14 scores, feeling like, hey, if I pick up this first down, it's not good enough. I got to go downfield. I got to get that big play. I got to swing the momentum to our side. When it's like, I hear that as a quarterback. Bryce, I think you can relate this. We always think we can gun it in there. We can make every throw on the field. And I can imagine with Nathan's ability, he feels like that even more. But at a certain point,
one was a bad read, though.
Yes. That was at a certain point, you got to live to die another day as well, right? And take the ball underneath. Move the chains. Keep moving. But as I said, I feel like he is pressing, and you could see it.
You know what I think might be affecting Nathan right now a little bit? And I don't want to put a lot of emphasis on this because he's a professional, and I think he blocks a lot of this stuff out. But there was a point in the game tonight, I don't know if you guys saw it, that Kid Canada cartoon thing.
Yeah.
They played it. They played it at the beginning of the game, and then coming out of halftime when they were down like big, they played it again.
I know what you're saying. Whoa, about
Cole.
And we got a comment or something.
Yeah.
There's 2 of them there. That one I want to address, but continue, Brian.
Okay, so like, I don't see the point of playing that cartoon again at halftime when they're down. So, if anybody can do it, it's Kid Canada. Like,
I know.
This is why Nathan gets so much hate. People piling on him all the time when things aren't going the Lions' way. It's always Nathan's fault. Nathan's not good enough. Nathan's never won a damn thing. But yet TSN keeps throwing this Kid Canada narrative out there. The MOP this, the MOP that. And I'm going to talk about that later because Bo Levi Mitchell was a bit of a piece of shit tonight that I want to talk about that. I don't know if you guys caught that, but we'll get into that a bit later. But I just wish that everybody would just tone things down a little bit with Nathan. He's a human being.
Yes.
And he's only one player on that offense. He doesn't play defense. And the problem with this team right now is the defense can't stop a semi truck going through a small hole. Like it's that bad. And I don't care who your quarterback is or what kind of offense you have. If your defense is as bad as the Lions defense is right now, you're not going to win football games, period.
So there's one that Van East Eric goes, he was missing all his receivers, cut him some slack. I agree to a point about that, but here's the thing. And Brian, this kind of goes to what you're talking about. He is paid and he is supposed to, and Cole, you know this as well as I do as a quarterback. Part of our job when we're treated as starters and that you have to elevate everybody. That is a burden you wear as a starting quarterback on your team. And when you're held in that category, and Cole, you know about it with Josh Allen. Hey, Josh, you got to go be Superman. Hey, Nathan, you got to be Captain Canada. Like, and that stupid cartoon, like that will be the narrative because of what he has already accomplished and some of the amazing things he can do. That is the expectation of Nathan. And I agree with you, Brian. Like, again, we have to remember these individuals are human, 100%. I think the biggest thing that the Lions may have to do with Nathan is save Nathan from himself. And that comes down to Buck Pierce. Get him out of situations where he's feeling, as Buck wears 3 hats. He's the OC, the head coach, and the quarterback coach. Part of your job is to protect your quarterback sometimes from themselves. Give them different things and easier things so they don't have to press. And I don't think Buck has done a good job of that.
Bryce, this might be a good question for you as somebody with multiple titles. How much do you think that Buck Pierce is even a quarterback coach to Nathan opposed to head coach quarterback relationship, offensive quarterback relationship? Because that's two completely different roles for people that don't understand, right? Your quarterback coach is somewhat of the good guy, if you will, where your offensive coordinator can be the bad guy, can come to the sideline, give you shit. We haven't seen that at all from Buck Pierce with Nathan Rourke quite yet. The bad guy, good cop, bad cop relationship. As I said, there needs to be the guy after Buck Pierce chews you out. He walks back to his spot on the field where the quarterback coach comes in. You get on the iPad, you watch your film. Hey, this is what I seen. You know, Buck Pierce is just being critical of you. Keep doing your thing, building Nathan back up. That is a huge, huge aspect to a quarterback, especially at a professional level.
110%. And this is why I made the comment I did the last show saying, I feel like there is a gap in the offensive staff because Buck wears too many hats. And this is where I think Jason Moss in Montreal has nailed this. He's got Anthony Calvillo as the OC and quarterback coach. So Jason is involved in the play calling and the game planning and everything. And he's on the field with Davis, Alexander all the time. But the relationship is different with Anthony Calvillo calling the plays because now either Jason can be that buffer or Anthony can still be that buffer. There's nobody like that in BC for Nathan. He doesn't have that other voice to be like, hey, Nathan, you're good. Let's make sure we read this properly. But hey, you're still doing things good. You need that positive reinforcement to it. And this is where I think there is a gap in the Lions coaching staff. And I think if they're going to get better and Buck's going to get better, he has to, because I don't think he does the quarterback coach job really outside of the drills that we see and probably watching film. But that's the same as the OC and the head coach at that point. And I agree 100% with you, Cole. There needs to be somebody like that for Nathan because to Brian's point, the kid's wearing the Captain Canada mantra and all this stuff. Having somebody that's in your corner that can kind of help lessen the blow of something from a coach being like, hey, you got to do better, blah, blah. It helps. And that's where I think the Lions are missing that with Nathan right now. And I think, you look at some of the other successful times the Lions, have had great quarterbacks. They've had a quarterback coach. You had Jacques Chapdelaine, you had Steph Kruk. And Steph Kruk was one of the best quarterback coaches in CFL history. You got Dave Dickinson now passing off the OC mantra in Calgary. And now he's able to kind of be the head coach more and let the OC and quarterback coach do their thing. This is something I think, Cole, that you're 100% right. This is something that's missing from the Lions.
I want to get this comment in here from Robert. Teams that prioritize big, nasty O-lines and big, nasty D-lines win in the Canadian Football League. BC doesn't get it. I completely agree with this. Yep. We let Jarrell Broxton go this year, or I don't know how much money it was, but you got to prioritize that. Like in this league, especially when you have a guy like Nathan Rourke, that should be your number one priority is to have a big nasty offensive line that's going to protect Nathan Rourke and open up holes for James Butler. And I don't think we have that, as particularly in the middle of the offensive line. I think the tackles have been okay. I mean, Nathan hasn't come under too much pressure this year, but at the same time, like, other teams prioritize that. You look at the Riders, you look at the Bombers. What are the
Hamilton,
Montreal, Hamilton, like Edmonton went out and got a bunch of monsters for their offensive line.
Toronto, when they were winning, was built through the trenches, and then everybody poached them.
And we had Ryan Rigmaiden on our show tell us that that's the way he builds football teams. I don't see it. I don't see it with this Lions team. Like, you did not prioritize that. You didn't. Like, if that was a priority, Jarrell Broxton would have been signing number 1 in the offseason. And he should have been signing number 1 in the offseason. And it's okay to say, well, like, oh, well, we just got it. We found Broxton, we'll find the next guy. Well, you haven't found him yet. You know, like, the defensive line. I look at some of the defensive lines around the league, and I would take any of them over ours right now. Any of them. Like,
honest,
you know, maybe not Ottawa or whatever, but like,
that's not saying too much, Brian.
Actually, I think our defense is worse than Ottawa's, guys.
I said in our group chat, I guess we're ranking the Lions number 9 this week. I mean, they deserve to be. There's no sugarcoating things. The Lions are a bad football team right now. Yeah, especially on defense, and on offense, it's like, you know, they're plugging away, doing the best they can with all the injuries, but like, no, they're just not a good football team right now.
Here's one thing with the offense that kind of does bug me a little bit from Buck Pierce's perspective. And I know it's just surprising that we're kind of talking about Buck, but this offense that he brought from Winnipeg, they are an RPO based offense. Okay. So that means your run pass option. The key word in that first part of that style of play is run. They do not run enough right now to run an RPO offense successfully. And I think that's one of the things we're seeing with this. If you even are losing your receivers to a point, if you run the ball, that's how you ease receivers into this flow. Cole, you know that as well as I do, if we need to get new receivers in, let's ease them into this. Let's get the run game going. There's still, and I get you went down 14-0, but again, still, there's no commitment to it. There's no consistency with the run game. They were supposed to be the two-headed monster of Horvath and Butler. And I'm going to keep coming back because that's what we were told all offseason, and we have not seen it. We barely see these two on the field at the same time.
Been able to do it,
and Horvath's really only getting reps as a freaking QB.
They haven't had consistency, and they haven't had a dominant performance offensively. And I don't care.
You got the audio.
We have audio? Do you guys want to listen to it? Well,
sure.
Okay.
Of the season, thanks to my good friends at Key West Ford for making sure that, hey, I get from A to B, whether it's the World Cup, whether it's CFL games. I don't know if I'm going to drive to Kelowna, but I could because of the amazing range that I get. But look, let's talk about this game. 41-21, Hamilton with a win over the Lions. An absolute beat down. The 14-point margin is really, really flattering to the BC Lions because this was all Hamilton. And when you look at the way this game went, so much of it is predictable because when you look at the injuries the Lions had at receiver, they were going to have to keep up, and they couldn't. And defensively, the Lions are in a lot of trouble right now. I mean, their secondary is all shades of bad. Every single one of them. They're all bad right now. They're all playing poorly. I'm not making a blanket statement that they're bad forever. I'm saying they're currently incredibly poorly. And offensively, BC was going to need to keep up, and they simply couldn't do that. So we go into this game, second play, big shot. They go down the field. Keandre Smith catches a touchdown. Next drive, first play, big play. Then another big play. Then another first play, big play, pass interference, and over and over and over. It's been interesting this year league-wide that, you know, we've seen the proliferation of 400-yard passing games, like a lot of them in the first 2 weeks of the season, 6 games. And I talked to Steve Daniel, the league statistician, crack statistician in charge of all of that. And he told me that 17 of 41 attempts this year of passes over 30-plus yards. So the fact that there's been 41 through 6 games coming into this one, teams are taking shots down the field. We're not seeing great efficiency because of, you know, high completion percentages. It's about pushing the ball down the field. So you look at Trevor Harris last week, a completely different style against the Lions. He completed over 80% of his passes, and then Bo Levi Mitchell, a second straight perfect game from a passer rating perspective. Only 285 yards, but he was 15 of 18, and he pushed the ball down the field. And he wanted to see if the Lions could measure up. He knew that secondary was young. He knew they didn't look good last week. He was going to test them and see what they could do, and they failed the test again. And he threw for 5 touchdown passes. So, first of all, you got to give Bo credit. 36 years of age. He's playing awesome. I had a lot of doubts about this Hamilton team, primarily because I just didn't believe in them defensively, and just, their front seven, like there's a lot of turnover. They lost Devin Varasek at linebacker. I don't think they've got a dynamic pass rush. I think there's questions in the secondary. I love Stavros Katsantonis, but there are questions in other spots there. And I just think that there were some questions defensively, but the way that offense is playing, it certainly takes a ton of pressure off the defense. And the way BC's defense is playing, it puts tremendous pressure on the offense. And with the number of injured receivers they had going into this game, it was simply not going to work, right? I mean, they had 4 starters out of the lineup. And I thought the receivers did some good things. We'll get to that in a minute. But 4 starters out, and then late in the game, Justin McInnis got tweaked, right? So Kieran Poissant, who, is their 6th guy, so really 5 of 6, missed most of this game. He had a lower back injury in the first half, didn't come back in. He did some good things before he left this game. And then McInnis ran into the video display board on the side, the ad board, and looked like he tweaked his ankle, made a nice catch at the end, despite kind of hobbling through coverage for that bender route. But I'd be worried. I think they made a really smart decision by not letting Keon Hatcher play. I know that he was really, really close. He wanted to play. The team said no. They held him back, which I think was smart, because I think they knew they were in tough this week anyway. And you don't want to take a chance and then have another injury going forward with a player like that. So, but, and I debated coming on this thing as to whether or not I was going to just shred everything and everybody and throw everybody under the bus, or whether I was going to take a bit of a measured approach. And I think there has to be a bit of both here, because defensively, there's a lot of blame to go around, like a lot of blame at every level of the organization. The guys in the back end aren't good enough, right? CJ Colden at one corner, and you've got Ty, I'm losing his last name on the other side, the rookie that has struggled as well, Ty Russell, in for Gary Peters right now. So, that's a problem. And then you've got 2 halfbacks that aren't doing their part to necessarily alleviate the problem. We saw TJ Lee got beat a couple times in this game, got beat over the top for a touchdown. Jackson Finley, I'm going to tell you a secret. When we did our top 50 this year, I had Jackson Finley as my number 1 ranked defensive back. My number 1 ranked defensive back in the league. I felt he would get to that level this year based on how he finished last year. I didn't necessarily think he was that guy immediately, but thought he could be. Didn't look great on the first play. And really, when you look at all of them, they all didn't get beat repeatedly, because Bo only threw 18 passes and completed 15, but they all got beat badly. Not repeatedly, but really, really badly. So defensively, they're not good enough. So who do you blame? Last week, they played a ton of off coverage. Trevor Harris got the ball out of his hands immediately, and it was death by 1,000 cuts. This time, Bo Levi Mitchell pushed the ball down the field, and they couldn't hold up. And there was zero pass rush, right? So all of these guys, we thought that group was going to be really good. Matthew Betts was going to be the second half of last year's version of Matthew Betts. Levi Bell came in late in the season. He was going to, all of a sudden get used to this game, be a dude. Jonah Tavai, I was expecting this guy to be like an elite interior defensive lineman. Coaches from around the league told me this guy's a handful. Well, I haven't noticed him through 2 weeks. Casey Sales, returning home to Hamilton this week, was supposed to be another big upgrade. Not good enough. So they're not getting any pressure on a deep ball passer, exposing a secondary. And then last week, maybe they could have done some different things coaching-wise, right? And maybe not put those guys in off coverage and made it easy for Trevor Harris the way it was last week. And you could certainly look at it from a management and personnel standpoint. Did they do a good enough job replenishing back there? And I know it's tough when you pay your quarterback that much and you invest heavily at receiver. But again, every level of it isn't good enough. So there's lots of blame to go around. Offensively, I'm trying to wrap my head around how I feel about this one, because the first 3 drives, they drove the ball down the field. You got to finish. And I understand that they're missing guys, but they still were good enough to get down the field. They didn't finish drives. Could Buck Pierce have gone for it a couple of times on 3rd down? Maybe. And then he went for it on 3rd down a couple of times late in the game when there was nothing at stake. And you're 3rd and 2 and you want to hand off and think you're going to convert. And at that point, why? Why was, I don't think Nathan Rourke should have been in the game as long as he was. You know, as we talk about coaching, there was a challenge situation in the first half. BC goes 2-0. In the second half, BC goes 2-0 on the first drive of the third quarter. There was a play there late where the defensive back Bynum for Hamilton kind of got his hands around Justin McInnes. Buck Pierce didn't throw the flag. He should have. On the next drive, BC goes 2-0. Oh, wait, they don't. And they get a PI call on a bang-bang play with Williams coming downhill on a receiver, got there just barely early as he was going through the ball. And I'm not saying it was a bad call on review, but Milanovic challenged it, won it, and I think both were really close. One coach was conservative, one coach wasn't. And the coach that was conservative needed a play to start the third quarter to get back in the game. So there was coaching mistakes in this game. There was, certainly from a player's top down, all of it. At some point, I look at the receivers and I saw a number of replays where guys simply weren't getting open, right? Hamilton went to a lot of man coverage in the first half and guys simply weren't getting open. But then at the same time, Poisson did some good things. And certainly Nick Senecal, 9 catches for 120 yards on 12 targets. This guy played really, really well. Both touchdown passes or receptions were really impressive, one from each quarterback. So, I thought Nick Senecal was really good. And he's going to have to play a lot, right? And, Poisson, if his lower back, he left the game in the second quarter with a lower back injury. If he comes back to play, hopefully he's available next week. But I would take him. I would take Senecal. Cotoy's going to be out for a little bit. You get Hatcher back in the lineup, and then you find one of the American guys, whether it's Jackson or Silas Bolden, whatever. Bolden did a good job in the return game, but taking that missed field goal in the second quarter early out of the end zone was a completely bonehead decision. So whether that was a player or a coach who didn't explain to the player properly what needed to happen, that was an important time in the game because the Lions weren't out of it at that point, and now they're starting on their own 2-yard line. But, he did some good things in the return game. The coverage teams weren't real good as far as specials go. But, so offensively, I thought the offensive line was really, really ordinary. I saw 3- and 4-man pressure. It was only 3 sacks, but I saw some 3- and 4-man pressure looks where Nathan still had to run around a bit. As for Nathan himself, I thought overall he did well. There were 2 passes that I didn't like. One was the interception to Katsantonis. The receiver was covered, flat out covered. There were 2 additional Hamilton players, including Katsantonis, in the area, and he put it there anyway. Not a good decision. And then there was another play where he was rolling to his left, and he pulled out the jump pass, which he completed last week, and it almost got intercepted by Katsantonis this time. So those 2 plays I didn't like, but everything else I thought he did as well as could be expected, given the fact that he doesn't have chemistry with these guys yet, and guys aren't necessarily winning in man coverage. So, but at least they got some good performances offensively, and I think there's some things there they can build on. But here's the formula for the BC Lions. And I said this coming into the year because my big question was their secondary. And so far through 2 games, it's been an absolute failure. Part of it's the pass rush's fault, but the secondary has been a failure. So I said coming into the year that the offense is going to have to be really, really good, and they're going to have to win high-scoring shootout games until the defense catches up. Well, they haven't been able to do it offensively yet. They've had moments, but they haven't had consistency, and they haven't had a dominant performance offensively. And I don't care who you're going to tell me the receivers are next week. I'll give you grace this week. I'm not going to give you grace next week because these guys aren't coming back for 6 weeks. And now you got divisional opponents in Edmonton and Calgary coming up in back-to-back weeks in Kelowna. Those are signature games for the organization. They're going to have to find a way to get it done because no more excuses at this point. So that's where I'm at. I know I've been rambling and I've been kind of all over the place. But I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but eyebrows are raised. Thanks for tuning in. We'll do it again next week.
All right. As Farhan Lalji's comments from his Farhan cast that he does after most games on Twitter. Notice he didn't talk about Benny. I'm not surprised. He's a big Benny supporter. But I mean, he kind of just reiterated everything we've talked about. Basically, no pressure, no help coming. These guys got to figure it out.
I don't know. I disagree with that though. Like the no pressure thing, because we had a comment here as well. Where was it? Let me see if I can find it about like 2 games against 2 of the premier quarterbacks. Well, I understand that, and at some point the schedule will get easier. Who are we going to have to beat come the West final, the West semifinal? You're going to go against the premier players. Like, so if we turn around for the, say, the regular season, we finish 6-0 or whatever, go on a stretch run, and it's all nice. Well, were those issues resolved like fully? As I said,
I didn't mean no pressure to win. I meant no pressure on the quarterback.
yeah,
Yeah.
Nathan, for sure. But like,
Oh, no. I mean, no pressure from our defense.
Yeah,
on
I see.
opposing quarterbacks. That's what
I see.
That's kind of what I meant.
There's a ton. Like we talked about it how much in the offseason of these are the games that we don't win the West because of we're losing.
And Farhan mentioned it right there. These games coming up in Kelowna are signature games. Like they're very important games, not only for marketing wise, but they're West Division opponents. And then you got a bye after that, and then you got another West Division opponent. So they need to figure it out quick.
You made a good point about when they return to BC Place, Brian, as well.
Yeah, I mean that place will be empty if they come back like 0-6 or something like that. Like it doesn't get easier, guys. It doesn't get easier.
Yeah,
like listening to what Farhan kind of mentioned and stuff, it is in a lot of agreements with us. But this is where Buck has to mature, and not saying he's an immature person. That's not what I mean. He has to mature as a head coach now and make some of these tough decisions and find a way to get this team going. Somebody has to be the spark. And that's where I think, honestly, as crazy as it sounds, I think that's where they might miss a Micah Awe. Micah Awe was a spark plug type player. Who is that right now on the BC Lions?
I think they were hoping it was Sankey, but it hasn't been through 2 games.
It hasn't been, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. You don't have that guy. And that's where if you look at any of the teams that are successful, you look at tonight when Keandre Smith and Kenny Lawler are making their catches, like they are up, they are amped. Like freaking Lawler gets flipped on his head, basically, which I think Kenny Lawler tonight might have put a lot of state into the fact he might have the best hands in the CFL, period. Yeah. Like he does not drop many things, and I'm still shocked he's not in the NFL, to be honest with you. But like there's so much emotion. There's no emotion from the Lions, good or bad. Like when teams lose and shit's going wrong, you want to see some fire. And sometimes, yeah, you know what? It may be friendly fire, and you may have guys like poking each other and giving each other shit, but there's none of that from the Lions. And you need to have some of that. Football is an emotional sport. It is. But there's none of that from this BC Lions team. It's just like they're dormant. They're in hibernation.
We talked in the preseason about how this extended road session was going to go one of two ways. It was going to go badly, or it was going to like galvanize this team. And, when you go on the road, you're on the road together, you're eating together, you're sleeping together in the same dorms or whatever. Like you're spending a lot of time with your teammates. I really hope that this doesn't start fracturing the locker room between, maybe the offense and the defense, and guys start pointing fingers. And because if that starts happening, you might as well just write the season off right now, because that locker room needs to stick together. It needs to be strong. They need to play for each other. We can sit in here all we want and criticize and all the rest of it, but the guys in the room are the ones who are going to have to change this, and they're going to have to take a look at each other in the room and the guy beside them and play for each other. They don't like hearing all this stuff. I saw TJ Lee comment on it today, saying, look, people have the right to criticize when we play bad, but we're the ones that need to fix it. And that's truth. That's a fact. And there's nothing you or I can do to fix it. And quite frankly, those guys don't give a shit what we're saying in this podcast.
Agree.
They don't care. It's in that locker room where they're going to have to fix it.
I'm waiting for the Rick Dollywall question this week to whoever. I'm just sorry guys, but I'm waiting for that. Someone's going to ask a question this week. It's coming. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's Rick or JC maybe asks another one. Who knows? Where it's just going to be like, hey, Strevler said this time about your defense, and just see, because it's going to be worse. Like, It's going to be worse this week. This, like, to your point, Brian, hopefully this is rock bottom. I don't think it is, though. For me personally, I don't think it is. Especially if Calgary wins if they beat Saskatchewan and they're riding that high walking into Kelowna. Like, don't think it's going to,
Calgary is a good football team, and we saw it in the Western Final last year. We were lucky to get out of that game with the skin of our teeth. Like, Calgary is going to be a nasty piece of business in Kelowna. Edmonton, we'll see what they can do this week, but like, I think Calgary is a severely underrated team in the West, and I don't know why people are sleeping on them because their defense is good. They're getting 2 monsters back on the defensive line this week. It could be ugly in Kelowna. Bo Levi is different from Trevor Harris. As Lauren Smith, the Lions had to know what Bo was going to push the ball downfield to Lawler and Smith early. They got beaten over the top early, and
Cole brought that up.
We talked about it on Wednesday. Yeah, we talked about it on Wednesday.
You literally said that, Cole. You're like, the
Yep.
Lions have to be sitting there understanding Harris is different than Bo. Bo still has a very live arm and will push the ball vertically down the field. Like, I said this to someone I was talking to during halftime of the game, and I said the way that the Tiger Cats played that first half reminded me of when you watch an Alabama or a Georgia play a Div 3 team, and they're like, screw it, we're just going to throw the ball deep every play because we know we're better than you and can get it. That's what it felt like in a lot of ways, which is really embarrassing at the professional level. And I'm going to say one other thing, guys. You know, we've talked about in our group chat, this whole carrying a third quarterback on game day, stop it. Like, that was embarrassing tonight that we had to run Cherry out there in a 62 jersey who's a defensive lineman to play right guard because we didn't have enough. We only dressed one other lineman. You don't need Caden Salter, the third string quarterback.
if he's not doing short yardage, what's the point?
What's the point? There is no point. Give him a clipboard, tell him to stand there and activate another lineman or a receiver. Like, that to me is just, again, such dumb decision making by the coaching staff.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think, you know, in that situation, I said it like when NFL teams usually dress like 8-9 offensive linemen. It's weird to me that the CFL, and that's not just a Lions thing as well. It tends to only be across the CFL. They only dress no more than 7 or 8. I get it from a special team standpoint. At some point, you kind of have to juggle. Hey, can this guy provide me any special teams reps? So I understand that. But as we're coming back to, Salter is not providing you any snaps, whether it's special teams, whether it's anywhere. So to me, definitely give a hat tip to Nathan Cherry, the good Sasky boy, for coming in and actually, I think he fared fairly decent considering he's a defensive lineman. But you should never be in that situation that Sask has been in the last number of years, right? With Micah Johnson having to come in, he has that extra jersey on the sideline. So we see it from time to time. As I said, it's not an uncommon thing across the CFL. But to not to know coming into the game that Hatch is banged up, you're likely going to, you know, whether it's a game time decision. It was truly a game time decision. I thought maybe that was a little bit more of a smokescreen and they would play him, but it was truly game time decision. They didn't feel comfortable. You know, going in, you're down to even less recs now. And then you go into the situation with only 6 offensive linemen. I would have 100% called up Berwick from the practice roster and gave him a jersey, or whether it's another receiver, just to have that insurance. We saw it with McInnes. If they had another receiver, would have McInnes went back into the game? Who knows, right? I think Brian brought up a good point earlier about it was Bryce, about the emotion or lack of emotion and, you know, some fractures within the locker room here early on, and Nathan kind of not looking like he's having much fun out there. To me, it reminds me of 2024 when he came back from the NFL. And it didn't look like he had that same love for the game. It didn't look like he was, well, at that time too, he was totally pressing as well because he felt like he had to prove where he belonged back in the CFL. And at that time, the locker room was fractured. It was, hey, half the guys are team VA and this is our quarterback. And the other half were probably like, well, Nathan's coming back. So then you have all those questions. So to me, it feels like this is really similar to like starting to take a toll in the locker room. And you can see it. They're not having fun out there, which is not good. And maybe, you know, the scoreboard's playing a little bit of a part into that when you're down 14-0 before you can even get into the game. But that's a huge emotion. Energy is a huge part of football, and being able to build off momentum, build off your teammates and having big plays. So I think it's one that they need to find that love, and I think that starts at practice. You're right. Like, you can get the vibe going back at practice and turning the music up and having good periods, but it starts at practice and you have to build into the game. And one thing I think is they need to look into maybe different strategy in how they start games and how they prepare for, you know, whether it's at walkthrough, whether it's maybe they need a little bit more of an intense walkthrough, or the day, like the morning of. They need like a different routine, but something is wrong with the starting of this team, and it's been for the last 2 years.
One thing I noticed tonight, and this probably reflects on Buck a little bit, is I noticed guys walking off the field hanging their head instead of running off the field, and that's not good for culture. And when Buck sees that, he's got to go out there and clap the hands and say, "Look, come on, let's get your head up, let's go, keep playing." You see guys like Moss do that all the time, you know, and that's something that, you know, the coach has to recognize and change that culture and not allow that culture to creep in. When you're down in a football game, you need to run off the field like a professional. You can't be sulking. I know it's frustrating, especially for those defensive guys. They got to be frustrated that they're not getting pressure, that they're not able to cover, that things aren't going well. But like, you know, you even saw Justin McInnes near the end of that game.
He was frustrated.
He was frustrated. I saw him throw his helmet on the bench, and that was after he got hurt with the ankle, I think. But you know, you can't allow that culture to fester, right? So I think the Lions got to be careful about that and make sure that everybody's, you know, kept up even in the low times, because the good times will come. Like, they will come. It's just a matter of trying to figure this out. It's not going to be like this all season, folks. It's just not. You know, the Lions, every season has ups and downs. Every team is going to go through peaks and valleys through the season. Just so happens that we're decimated by injuries right now, so it's not helping. You know, and there's going to be NFL cuts coming. There's going to be guys that they can find, you know, bring in, maybe that they've released and take a second look at, maybe like they heard Mayala's, like, you know, I really hope they make that call this week because they need it. And he played well and he can do the job. So even if it's in an interim basis, and maybe they've tried and Hergy says, you know, I'm just not about it, but like, they got to do something. But it's not going to be like this all season. We got to keep our heads up. The players got to keep their heads up. We're critical tonight. We're fans. We're emotional. You know, I invest money into this. You guys invest your hard-earned money into this. I'm going to be spending close to $4,000 in Kelowna this week on hotels and food and all the rest of it. So, you know, to go watch my team probably get blown out a couple times if nothing changes. So, like, it's frustrating for us as fans, but trust me when I say this, it's more frustrating for the players. This is their living. This is how they make their money. And it can all be gone in a blink of an eye if they get cut or released. So they take it way more seriously than we do. And they're professionals. And you know what you'll see at practice this week? You'll see guys smiling. You'll see guys in good moods because they're professionals. And I see it all the time. And I just marvel at it because I'm like, how can you guys be so up after such a bad loss? But they're conditioned. They're pro athletes, and they flush it and they try and move on. And that's what they got to do. They got to flush it. They got to get in the film room and try and fix the things that are wrong. And, you know, the coach has got to figure something out to help these guys, because I think we've talked about it tonight. There's been some bad coaching decisions. There's been some lack of coaching decisions. That's that field goal that was missed. Never should have happened after last week. I mean, we saw it this exact same thing last week, and then we see it again this week. Bolden should have known. There should have been a meeting of special teams players. It's not like they brought Bolden back and he didn't see what happened last week. He was around the team. He would have been in those meetings. Like, I don't know.
He had to watch the game.
Yeah. Watch the game, whatever. And at practice, he's there. He's on the practice roster. He would have been involved in those meetings. And like, were they not informed of that? Like, did Corey McDermott not say, you know, this can't happen again? We have to be more cognizant of the new rules. And I know you guys want to take returns back for touchdowns, but like, you know, it's going to cost us 40 yards. That play alone cost us 38 yards at a critical time of the game, like Farhan mentioned.
Hey guys, maybe it'll be good luck getting back into the black uniforms. Maybe it's the Pacific Frost that's the problem, and they haven't thought out yet. Maybe that's
that till July 25th. So we better hope it turns around before then, because
burn the whites. It's clearly
just go back to the fog grays. We won in those. Go fog grays, black pants. Like, just move on. They look good, but stash them, because clearly they're also some bad juju right now.
I really appreciate what Brian brought up though, and kind of bringing it back full circle, right? Because I think I do appreciate that, having that aspect of playing football and understanding that. I think when you're outside the building, you have a right to be critical as fans. As Brian said, you're paying your hard-earned money to go, whether it's season tickets, single game tickets, buying a jersey, buying a shirt, whatever it may be, to be critical. And a lot of the time, those concerns you have during the season end up coming up to bite you in the back behind when it matters most. But football players are so conditioned to, playing junior football, having a coach being like, it's 72 degrees and a cool breeze at all times for us, right? There's no highs, there's no lows. It's trying to stay as cool and as calm as possible, right? So for them, I would imagine tomorrow is going to suck when they get back into the film room, when they have to digest what they just put on display. Come Sunday, I would imagine even later tomorrow night, that flip's going to be switched and it's on to Calgary. It's on to Kelowna, because you can't be thinking about what happened while not moving forward, while the rest of the league is moving forward, because you'll get stuck and you'll then that's where you'll fall behind and seriously not be able to catch up. So I think it does suck. There is huge concerns, folks. So do not let us try to downplay this by any means, because I do agree with Brian. There will be some positives to happen. Think about a year ago this time. It was, I think, about week 3, and we just came off the loss in Winnipeg with Jeremiah Masoli starting at quarterback, and how brutal that was without Nathan, and kind of feeling like, man, I never want to watch a BC Lions game without Nathan at quarterback again, because our offense was terrible, right? So they were able to turn it around. Not saying this team is the same and they're going to be able to turn it around, but let's hope that they are able to hit rock bottom, as Brian said, and now start to build from there and go forward and start to push that snowball in the right direction and get it moving down the hill for us, hopefully.
Well, Cole, and you know this as well as I do, you have the 24-hour rule after a loss or a win.
Yeah.
You have 24 hours to think about it, and then you're moving on. And by the time these guys get back into the building, it'll be, okay, we're digesting this, and we're moving on. Like, it's flushed. It's done. We can't change it. What we put out there is what we put out there. We have to find strides to go in the right direction. This is where I think, the last thing I'll say on the emotional part of this team, I want to see some Buck Pierce emotion. Because the one thing I've seen from some of the great coaches, even Wally, who was pretty much a stoic guy, you saw moments with Wally with emotion. You look at some of the guys that are coaching right now and at the high level, like Mike McDonald, who just won the Super Bowl. He has emotion, good and bad. But there needs to be some of that. If you don't have guys necessarily on the team that are bringing it right now, your coach needs to bring it. Buck needs to bring it. When a play works and it's great, like, show that emotion and that enthusiasm about it. You have to, because the guys need it. They need that kind of positive reinforcement to them a bit, because for them, it's like, yeah, we made some good plays in the past games and it goes to shit. Like, that does creep into your brain as a player. It's like, oh yeah, it's like quicksand. Hey, like, you keep trying to fight it and eventually you just kind of sink. You need somebody to bring that. And so they flush it, they get back at it, they start, hitting that rock with the hammer and seeing, how much more they can chisel off to get ready for Calgary.
And you see that with guys like RP, right? Like, he brings emotion into his coaching. He's running out on the field. He's dancing with players on the sidelines after an interception. He's becoming one of the boys. He's like, and that's infectious. It gets guys on your side. It gets guys wanting to play for you when you're praising them for their hard work. And you got to give tough love sometimes. But, like, guys, we don't like relish coming in here after a game and just ripping everything. It sucks. It just sucks. And, I've done this podcast I took a 2-year break, but the whole time I did it for 7 years before I brought it back. We did this show for 7 years, and the Lions were pretty bad the whole 7 years. And it gets tiring over and over again talking about the same things. And I feel like, we're kind of looking at that start to a season now where we're going to be talking about this defense for a long time, because it's going to take a while to turn things around. And it could get turned around, right? The 2011 Lions were 1-6, something like that. And then they went undefeated for the rest of the season and won the Grey Cup by adding a few pieces, right? So, like, there's a possibility it could get turned around quickly. There's a possibility it might take a little bit. The situation they're in, playing away from BC Place, is rough. That's not going to help. They're going to be out of their routines. They're going to be on the road for a long time. So they've got their challenges. How they handle this adversity is going to be up to them. And, it's the ball's in their court. It's in their locker room to figure this out. And hopefully they can. It's going to be a long year.
To me, that's the big one, right? Is how do they respond? How do you get back up after you've been knocked down?
Yep.
Nobody in the CFL is throwing them a life ring.
No.
Nobody's coming to help you.
And because of Nathan's
Yes,
hate,
Brian. There is a target.
Everybody is loving this right now.
Well, and there's a target to take Nathan and the Lions out because we were Grey Cup darlings coming into the season, right? And the SAS fans and all this, they feel disrespected because the Lions were in the headlines. Everybody wants to take a Nathan down a rung and to beat the Lions and say that we beat the Lions and did it in that fashion. Brian, you said about Bo Levi Mitchell tonight making the comment live on air.
Yeah, I want to get into that right now.
He felt the type of way clearly, right? That they're up by so much. You have to make a comment, as you said, very arrogantly. If he was the player that he is, and I would think you'd be comfortable in your shoes. I've done what I've done in my career. I've won Grey Cups, not having to make some little prissy comment on the TV comment to come back. Like, to me, that shows who Bo Levi Mitchell is. So I'll leave it at that.
For those that didn't see it, we're going to get into it because it pissed me off. So for those that didn't see it, they had a close-up of Bo on the bench, and I don't know, they were up by a lot at the time. And he looked at the camera and he kind of shook his head like this. And then they kept the camera on him for a bit, and then he got up and then he turned to face the camera and said, "Next time, get it right." Basically inferring that, he should have won the MOP last year and not Nathan. First of all, Bo, how about we switch defenses and we'll take all your receivers out of the game and see how many touchdown passes you're throwing. Like, have a little bit of class. You've won MOPs. You've won Grey Cups. Nathan won his first MOP last year. Calm down. Don't be such a little arrogant prick. And, Bo's kind of been like that his whole career. And Bo is a fantastic player. He's going to the Hall of Fame. Nobody can deny that Bo Levi Mitchell is not a great player. Show some class. You're kicking somebody up and down the field, and you got to make a comment like that because your feelings got hurt that you didn't win the MOP last year. Give me a break. Rant over.
Well, 250 people, boys. That's not bad. As we kind of expected, I think, in a loss, it tends to people like to show up and rant. One positive, I think, for a second, we talked about fans being critical. I thought was, I guess, maybe another positive of the game was the little feature they did on Justin McInnes and his family and his daughter. I don't know if any of you guys caught it because the game was kind of out of hand at that point, but he mentioned it like kind of as a parent, like being able to raise your kids old enough so that they kind of understand what daddy does at work. And he talked about like, oh, Justin's biggest critic now is like his daughter who comes home and is like, well, what the heck were you doing out there, Dad? And all this stuff. So I can imagine, hopefully, whatever his daughter's name is, she's very critical of the team tonight, saying like, what the hell is going on? We gotta turn things around before I get in the building. And I just thought that was a good cool little future anyways.
That's probably going to be JC's question to Nathan.
God.
So, did you catch Bo Levi's comment about get it right next time? What do you have to say about that?
I honestly, as crazy as it sounds, I would almost do a media freeze out of just have it be the coaches, Buck, Ryan Rigmaiden, and just let these guys focus. Like, let Nathan get a bit of a break from it all and just focus on ball and what's going on. Like, I would do that with this team. Like, let them dial in and focus.
Are you allowed to do that?
Would
they get fined?
Well, they'll definitely get criticized for it. Like,
yeah,
I know if they asked for Nathan and Matt Baker said, no, we're not making Nathan available.
Because just like that happened in the NHL, right, with Vegas in the Stanley Cup. Now it's obviously different, regular season Stanley Cup playoffs. But
I mean, look at the flack that Nathan got in that Victoria game when he ran off from that interview from Farhan and said, I just want to be with my teammates or whatever. See ya.
I agree with Bryce in terms of maybe like the players freezed out. I would wonder if you could totally freeze out the media in terms of coaches as well. I would think
no, you got to give the coaches.
That's what I would think is through a league, whatever it is, the rules that they have, agreement. I would think coaches at least have to be made available. You talked about it last week, Brian. Like, when does Benny get made available? Because there's going to be questions. Whoever it is, JC, Jay Janow, or whoever's going to be down there, I would think is going to be like, hey, are we going to be able to talk to Benny at all?
Well, I know they didn't make him available this week, so I don't know. A lot of guys don't let you talk. I know Mike O'Shea in Winnipeg doesn't let his coordinators do media
Yeah.
for some reason. So I don't think there's any rules.
I don't think Jason lets his guys either in Montreal. I don't see Calvillo get interviewed a lot either.
Yeah. So I mean, Buck can be the spokesperson. I mean, that's fine. But I do agree that, you know what, Nathan's been doing like a ton of media, and that's why when we had him on the show, I wanted to do it during the off season, because I feel like, he's got enough on his plate. I don't want to ask him to come in here on a Wednesday night when he's prepping for a game, or trying to get his rest or doing what he does to recover. I kind of wanted to have him in the off season when he doesn't have all those obligations. But like his contract, just the nature of his contract and the marketing money. Like, I know they're going out to some Save on Foods, I think it's tomorrow, to market the hard bite chips with Keon Hatcher, and like all these little appearances that he has to make, they add up, right? And I'm sure there's times when he doesn't feel like doing them, but in his contract, he's forced to do it. So maybe they can rein some of that in a little bit. I know they have to account for the marketing money that he makes as part of the league rules, but like, he's doing a lot, man, and he's making a lot of appearances, and maybe it's just time to rein that in a little bit.
And here's the other thing with Nathan. I think that, he didn't really get to kind of sit idly in the offseason. Like, you look at some of these guys, Bo Levi, Davis Alexander, like, they just disappear, right? They're gone in the offseason. Like, you don't see a lot of Bo Levi. Like, yeah, he's got his podcast or whatever he does, but they're not having media attention constantly on them. Nathan had all this media attention this year because of the whole flag football thing too. That's something that no one really talks about. Like, he was constantly like, oh, like, is he going to be on, Canada's team? And then they're asking Paul LaPolice about, like, that again, just adds another layer of stress. And like, like, hey, I'm in the media again. And there's all this hoopla about him playing in the adult flag league and everything, which he actually looked like he was having fun doing that, which was great to see, because I got to play against him in that, and it was awesome. And he actually looked like he was having fun, and it was enjoyable. But that all adds up. Like, he didn't really get to flip a switch off after the West Final and be like, okay, I'm chilling until, training camp starting and, OTAs or whatever. He has constantly been in the media in some aspect or another. And part of it's his contract, but part of it too is just like, they don't leave him alone. And this is where I think TSN, lay off. I get he's the face of your league, but give the dude a break. You got 3 other quarterbacks right now that are playing really well, and Harris and Bo Levi and Davis Alexander. Go talk about them for the next 4 weeks and leave Nathan alone.
Yeah. I mean, the Kid Canada thing, they showed it at the beginning, and then they showed it after halftime. Like,
it's not even Kid Canada anymore, Brian. They've upped it. It's Captain Canada.
Yeah. Captain Canada.
Like, he's not even Kid Canada anymore. They've now upped it to Captain Canada. It's like, hold on. Like,
and you just know, like, every Rider and Bomber fan that was watching that game tonight, oh, there's Nathan Rourke again. Look at him. He's getting his ass kicked, and they're still giving him all the attention. There's Nathan Rourke again. That's the kind of stuff he's dealing with on a daily basis. And he even referenced it in his MOP speech last year. I know some of you, I want to thank everybody that hates me, and even the ones that don't like me. Like, I'm just, thank you for all your support. Thanks for watching and all the rest of it. So he's very aware of the hate that he gets. And it's not warranted, man. Like, the guy is a stellar human being who does all the things off the field that you want your players to be doing. But for some reason, there's just this envy, or like, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but people just love to see him fail because he's not on their team. And I guarantee you, all those people would take Nathan Rourke on their team in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
I think the biggest thing for Nathan that is and I hate to say this, as crazy as this sounds, it's because he's Canadian and he's successful at the quarterback position.
100%.
That's the reason, because Davis Alexander isn't getting this. Bo Levi isn't getting this. They're playing the game just as well as Nathan is, but they're American, which is stupid,
absolutely ridiculous. Because how many decades have we heard Canadian Football League fans think, we need Canadian quarterbacks. Canadian quarterbacks
100%
never get a chance to play. And then as soon as we have one that comes in as good, if he's not on your team, he sucks and he's overrated and they talk about him too much. And well, so now what? We're chasing Canadian quarterbacks out of the league? Like, come on.
It's as stupid as it sounds, but that's what a lot of this is. If Nathan was an American, he'd just be like another Davis Alexander. He'd be another Bo Levi. But because he's Canadian, because there's that angle to it, and TSN has used that, and the CFL has used that as the massive marketing ploy. Look at our star Canadian homegrown talent. All these things, it has blown into this massive thing where even when you look at Nathan in the interview, I think he did before this game or whatever with I can't remember his name on the panel.
With Enoch?
Yes. And he's like, so what's the book on Nathan Rourke? And like, you could see Nathan was kind of like, well, there's this, but then like, you could see he's a reserved dude. He doesn't actually like all the spotlight and the attention. He'd be happy just doing his thing, going home, checking out, hanging out probably with his wife and his close friends and whatnot, and just being a normal guy. But he doesn't get the opportunity to do that. And that's where, when I always look at quarterbacks, I always kind of judge them on the guys that love to be in the limelight and the guys that shy away from it and kind of in the offseason disappear. You never hear anything about them. The guys that tend to do that and just check out and just go and live a normal kind of as much of normal as they can seem to be able to have the most success coming forward. And this is why I'm saying Nathan hasn't been afforded that. He is constantly in the NFL. There was all the stuff. He's the Canadian down in the NFL, Kid Canada, whatever. He's never had the opportunity just to be like, hey, I can just turn it off for a bit.
And that goes back to what you said about earlier about not having a quarterback coach, a dedicated quarterback coach, right? Somebody that Nathan can just go into the locker room with and sit in a stall and just shoot the shit with and say, man, this media is getting to me. I need to take a break from it or whatever. Like, he's got maybe he does have somebody, maybe it's his wife, maybe it's Buck. We don't know. Like, we're not in the locker room, but like having that quarterback coach, that dedicated guy that can just, pull Nathan aside or Nathan can pull him aside and have a chat would be valuable, I think.
The tough one for me, I think, with Nathan is that I think we struggle. I thought East Van Eric made a decent comment of like, everybody's always criticizing the CFL for marketing and stuff like that, where now we look forward, right? And we're going to have shows like us moving forward. Hopefully Dazen is more improved, where the media is getting bigger, I feel like, in the CFL, or hopefully growing, where that spotlight isn't going to go anywhere for Nathan. Right or wrong, right? I 100% agree that he needs a break, right? It's a bummer for him that we're even seeing it now, which I thought was a little bit odd. We didn't see it as much last year. Him doing media now during the season, right? Where he was on Donnie and Dolly last week, where maybe that's something that, hey, let's cut that out completely. There's no Sakaris and Price anymore. There's no 650 if they ask, no Donnie and Dolly anymore, because he does need a break. You could tell he's that guy that just wants to go home and chill with his wife and just relax and not be in the spotlight. Unfortunately for him, as most professional athletes know, right? Like, that's unfortunately not the case because they're professional athletes, right? And it is unfair to them. I 100% agree. Having somebody come into my 9-to-5 job and be like, well, you didn't get that screw in the drywall properly and criticize me, like, I'd be like, well, fuck you, man. Like, I did my job. So it does suck, but like, I feel like that's not going to slow down for him, right? Like, TSN
it comes with the territory too, right? You're the quarterback, you're the face of the franchise. You're going to have to answer some questions.
I do think we probably are maybe having a little bit hyper focused with us because we do watch Lions all the time, and I know we do watch. We'll do watch other games from time to time, but I would say like Davis is pretty hyped up with his progression through 14 games, rightfully so. They always talk about his undefeated streak, even though he likes to play it down. So, as much as Nathan does get hyped up, I think there is some spotlight on other people, but I think it's just unfortunately for him, something that he's going to have to, I don't know about learn to live with, learn to, work around, but something that just, it's not going to slow down, right? Because we've seen case in point with the World Cup, right? Of how booming soccer is right now in Canada with Canadian players, the Phil Potts and Justin McInnes and Betts, all these little youth players that are playing for Bryce and around the country, they're dreaming of being Nathan Rourke because of what Nathan Rourke's doing right now. So it's like, as much pressure and a burden that is on his shoulder, that's probably, I would say, not going to go anywhere for his career.
Here's the one thing.
We got some post game. We got some post game stuff from Pierce, Betts, and Rourke that we can get into.
Can I say something quick
yeah.
before we do that, Brian?
Go ahead.
So 2 things. I think Q-Man brings up a really good point. And this is what I brought up the other day. He goes, can't believe Jarius wasn't brought in to help Buck with QBs, Jarius Jackson. I'm shocked by that too, given their, history together, playing together and being together in BC, that wasn't an option. But what East Van Eric said, I couldn't stop laughing at for a moment there, because guys, all we got to do to get the attention away from the Lions is wait for the Canucks draft to hit and everything. And all of a sudden, 650 and all of them, Rick and Dollywall, it'll be hyper-focused on who the Canucks are going to take in the draft. And they'll forget all about the team that actually wins championships in this province and is successful. And they'll go talk about the things that are going on with Pettersson and all those guys. And they'll leave Nathan completely alone. They'll probably forget he exists, which is just perfect for us.
The unfortunate part is how right you are, because I could imagine there'll be, well, Elias Pettersson's going to turn it around this year under their new head coach, and it's like, well, yeah, give me a fucking break.
Yeah, no kidding. Is it going to play audio through this, Brian?
I'm going to try again.
Okay.
Well, Buck, pretty much from the get-go,
You
not
hear
the
it?
start the team
Yep.
wanted. How do you break down that one?
Oh, well, I think you said it. Not the start you wanted, not the result we obviously wanted, but a lot of things to fix. And we'll get them fixed. We'll look at them. I believe our guys are going to be able to adapt, but we gotta tighten some things up and look at ourselves and make sure we're doing the right things.
We just talked to Betts. A lot of pride on that defense. Two games struggling in a row. I mean, what's the key to turning things around there?
Well, I mean, I think it's hard to answer that question right now, but we'll look at the overall defense in its entirety and see where we can be better.
Never make excuses, but tough go with the injuries tonight. I mean, all things considered, though, it looked like the offense moved the ball well early, but had to settle for field goals. Obviously, was a big key.
Yeah, we need to do a better job of getting the ball in the end zone. Something we did last year much better. So, it's an area that we have to improve. And just, consistency up and down the field, right? There's various reasons of why drives, stall, and there's a lot to clean up.
Any updates on Kieran or perhaps the 2 offensive linemen that went down in the end, or too early?
A little bit too early right now. Hopefully Kieran will be okay. Obviously, when you can't return, it's something that's going to need a little bit of attention. But we'll evaluate him here in the next couple hours.
And lastly, Kelowna coming up, big divisional opportunity against Calgary. Is it maybe a good time for something different? Team get out of town for a few days and enjoy a different environment, maybe?
No, I mean, listen, we're in a situation where we've lost a couple games. The reality is we lost a game tonight, and it should be humbling for us. We didn't play nearly well enough to win, and that's what happens against good football teams and at the professional football level. We're looking forward to getting back together and working, whether that's after a win or a loss.
This is the perfect.
All right. Thoughts on that? I mean,
That's tough, to be honest.
that sounds like a guy who's pretty dejected to me. Like that's kind of not what I want to see from my coach, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Brian,
we chatted about it with Andrew 2 weeks ago about Corey Mace's composure and his leadership within that locker room, and not getting too high, not getting too low. And to me, like that, like did I know we just lost the game, but he gave us nothing emotionally, man. That was crazy, man. And then like the defense question, it couldn't have been, no offense to, this is not a shot at Baker, but it couldn't have been a bigger softball. And then he kind of danced around the question.
Mm-hmm.
What I took out of the defensive one actually was kind of interesting when he said that they're going to look at the defense in its entirety. I think there's, as much as I agree with you guys, there's not a lot of emotionally there. From a coaching perspective, that sounds to me very much of, we need to go back to basics at the drawing board with this. Like, there may be way too much we're trying to do and not enough focusing on the basics and the details. And that's one thing I think, but the one thing I'll say there is, That looks like a completely dejected coach that isn't sure what lever to pull to correct the train.
Well, he's like us. Like, what levers do I have left to pull?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
You know,
that's-
all my
I think that's a
receivers are
lot of
wiped
it.
out. All my receivers are wiped out. Our practice roster's thin for defensive guys that we can plug in there. Yeah, you got to go back to the drawing board. But like, what parts do you got to throw into the car? You know, like let's hear what Matthew Betts has to say, because we've talked about how the defensive line is not getting any pressure.
Well, Matthew, not really easy to sugarcoat that one. Just behind the 8 ball early. What happened in your mind from the start?
Well, not the result we wanted, but I mean, in terms of process, I think we just didn't show up with enough energy at the end of the day. I mean, we need to go. I'm specifically talking more about defense here. I mean, it's just regardless of what is called, I mean, it's on us, the players, to make it happen. And I just didn't today. And they've made a lot of good plays. So, I mean, it's not, I mean, they deserve a lot of credit. They played a good game offensively, but it's just, it's on us to shut it down earlier. I mean, we can't allow this to happen in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, 3 straight touchdowns to start, kind of a carbon copy last week. You know, extra disappointing given that there was talk all week about starting faster and just being overall more consistent.
Yeah, and it's just we are what we put on tape, and right now we're a 0-2 football team, and it's on us, it's on the players, it's on the coaching staff, to everybody to look at ourselves in the mirror, turn this thing around, and be 1-0 next week.
Team started slow last year, turned it around. I mean, obviously a lot of time left, and Buck even said it in there. Going to be some good times in this locker room. You know, what's the key to just keeping the head up high?
It's not to look too far ahead. It's about being 1-0 this upcoming game, and not seeing any further than that. I mean, it's one game at a time. It's always been that way. And I mean, as of right now, we lost 2 games. I mean, no, it's not the end of the world, but if we keep playing that way, it's going to be hard for us to go where we want to be. So it's just to come together, play better football, and things will start going our way.
Calgary next week in Kelowna. That's going to be exciting overall, but a big opportunity against a big division opponent too to bounce back.
Yeah, you always want to beat the teams out west, and it's everybody knows it's going to be fun in Kelowna. Everybody's excited. It's going to be a great time, but it's going to be a great time when we win a football game. So for us, it's to not get distracted by all the noise, everything around us, a new environment. It's just to be locked in on playing good football, not worrying about the other team, and just executing ourselves.
All right. Well, I mean, we talked about, you know, it's going to be up to the players to figure it out. You mentioned
That's
the same
had
thing.
more emotion.
That's a little bit more emotion, but you know, I'd still like to see him a little bit more pissed off. You know, I'm not playing well enough. I got to be better. Our defensive line has to get more pressure. Like that's part of it too, right? Like they gotta show the emotion as well.
I'm going to be curious on what Nathan has to say.
All right, he's up next.
You never want to blame injuries, but I mean, when you're down 4 receivers, Kurt, I mean, it puts the offense in a very, very big disadvantage, doesn't it?
I've never been a part of something like this. It's absolutely crazy how unlucky we've been this early in this season. Had a bunch of guys go down. We've had the injuries up front of our offensive line. It just I don't really know how to explain it, but it's certainly a huge obstacle.
Also, too, in the first half, when you score on 3 possessions, that's great. But when you got to settle for field goals when they're scoring touchdowns, that's put you really behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, we didn't do it. I thought we moved the ball well all game. Didn't finish enough with points, with touchdowns. And I'll take responsibility for that.
That was really.
You never want to blame injuries, but
yeah,
I mean,
I
when
don't
you're down-
know how you guys feel, but
He's got that look on his face where like I don't want to talk right now.
yeah.
Yeah. That's really
and-
short. I'm surprised Matt didn't get any questions in on that one.
Yeah, they did 49 seconds.
I'm not entirely surprised though. With, as Brian said, didn't look like he wanted to talk at all. And man, like, yeah, that's a tough look to see Nathan like that too. Like, and even to admit too, like, and completely right. Like, I've never had something like that in my career, but I think the professional, like, he usually tries to be like, oh, like no excuses kind of thing.
That was some excuses.
Yeah, which is something that I feel like he never does. Like, he always tends to be, you know, the ultimate professional. We could have done better. I could have done better. So
Well, he
that's
did say he takes responsibility for it, but
Yeah.
like, you could tell he's dejected.
Yeah, he's hurting inside.
It's just one of those games where you come out to face the media and you just don't want to be there, and you know what the questions are going to be, and you know there's only so many answers you can give. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I can't think personally of another team that's lost all 5 of their starting receivers. I can't think of a time where that's happened in the Canadian Football League or the NFL. This is pretty odd. But again, like you said, you got to find a way. And I thought Senecal played well, and you know, hopefully puts on. I'm a lot more encouraged to hear that a couple people say it's his back now than a knee, because the way he was coming off the field, it looked like it was knee, and the way they were looking at it, I think Cole, you said in our chat, they were testing for an ACL problem. I'm wondering if it was maybe like a nerve that got pinched in his back when that knee hit his back, and he couldn't feel his leg or something, and they were kind of trying to work it out because the leg did look kind of hanging there when they took him off. So maybe it's nerve related, but
yeah, hopefully, as we kind of were worried last week, right, with like the Katoy injury, sometimes it maybe looks a lot worse in game, and hopefully once they get looked at, they get a little bit of treatment, it's not as bad. But as Buck said, I think it's, you know, anytime you can't return, it's gonna cause a little bit of time missed, I would think. So is he ready for touchdown Kelowna? I would think probably not. Like, he couldn't, as you said, Brian, like he couldn't put any weight on that right leg, I believe it was, when he was getting helped off. We said it last week on the show. We said it in the group chat tonight. Like, I would have Myala on a plane if he's not in BC already, out to BC for next week. Like, you're going to need these guys to be getting as much reps and chemistry and building that in practice with Nathan.
That's a good point by Q-Man here, saying nothing is the Mike O'Shea way, who Buck Pierce is a protege of. But at least with Mike O'Shea, when you ask him a question, if he doesn't like it, he gets kind of snarly with you. You know, he does give you some emotion.
Here's the thing. There was one question I thought that was kind of just an odd one, and I get Matt Baker's position was, well, how do you feel about getting away and getting up? They're away. They've been away.
I was going to say
they haven't been home. What are we asking that for? Like, there's nothing that's changing for this team right now. They're okay. You're going to Kelowna. Like, you are not home until basically August. So
yeah, they'll come home for a bye week in between.
But that's it.
Games in Edmonton, yeah. And it's not like they're going there on a vacation like we are.
No.
Like, my wife and I are going to spend 9 days in Kelowna for 2 football games. So part of that's going to be a vacation. They're going there to work.
We talked about the routines too, right? Like, if guys like Bassan and stuff like that are trying to get treatment, and maybe they're, you know, we don't have as much treatment tables. We don't have our regular, maybe where Passant goes somewhere just by himself. I don't know if you know, Brian, does Tanner Kerr go everywhere with them?
Who?
Tanner Kerr, the strength and conditioning guy.
So yeah.
Yeah. It is like another one, right? Like, where they're in camp, I would imagine there's going to be somewhere near the Apple Bowl, but like, where's their facility going to be for the week, right? Where they go and...
I was told they're staying at a university in dorms.
Okay. So they'll have obviously
UBC Okanagan probably.
Yeah, so they'll have obviously a facility there to, you know, get some lifts in. I would imagine hopefully maybe an indoor track if they need to utilize that. But it's still out of their routine. So it's one that's like, I hope we chatted about it a ton. We asked everybody we could, Brian, of like, hey, is this early kind of, you know, weird season going to hopefully bond you guys? So let's cross our fingers that through the next 9-8 days or 2 weeks while they're up there, that they can bond, grow from this, and get better, because they desperately need to. As I said, no one's throwing them a life ring, especially as they're going to take on some of these Western opponents now.
We got a question here from the Barnyard Brew House. Are Courtois, McGee, Barry Hill all on 6-game injured list? How is Demont? All 4 of those guys are on the list, and I asked Farhan about that today, and he says all those guys that you mentioned here are legit injuries on the 6 game, so I wouldn't expect them coming back anytime soon. And he also added to that list Coker and
Pearson. Yeah.
So he said the rest of the guys, he doesn't know, you know, what their status is. He hasn't asked, but all those guys that you mentioned are on there, and they're probably going to be on there for the full 6 games. Something to note: bye weeks don't count as a 6 game as a week missed. So they're not going to get any reprieve by having a bye week early and having that count towards this. can pull off you can pull off 6 game, but that's why we posed the question to Farhan earlier today how legit that list was, and it sounds pretty legit. You pull somebody off, that money goes back on your cap. So there's 2 reasons why you might put somebody on your 6 game when they're not actually maybe 6 gamed, and one of them is to pay them their full salary and keep them happy and not put them on the practice roster. And by not putting them on the practice roster, they can't be plucked by somebody else. So a lot of teams will use their 6 game list to kind of protect some of their assets from time to time.
What does Q-Man say here? He says you can't practice for the first 4 weeks on 6 game as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So something that's interesting as well, because with obviously some of those guys maybe just getting back up to game speed and getting back to physically fit, is some of those guys like we won't see until it'll be training camp until week 6, 7 maybe till some of those guys come back. I mean, what else is there to talk about? Do we try to at some point, I guess, how does this team move forward for next week? With the receivers are one thing. Now my next concern is are they going to be out Dejon Allen and Brandon Yates next week? And Calgary's getting back Florin Aromalade and Hutchinson, and that's what we're walking into, is that defensive line.
Nathan Cherry at right guard, Cole. It's coming. The Nathan Cherry game. He's going to dominate, switch positions, and be our new right guard of the future.
We talked about it. This is no offense to guys like Alex Berwick on the practice roster and the other fellow that I'm forgetting his name right now. Tyron Hunt, I believe. I think maybe a little bit more for Berwick, because I'm a little bit more familiar with his background, as he just came out as a CFL draft pick last year, went to the University of Western. So he was kind of like that interior mauler. I still feel like he's very unpolished as a pass protector, which is what he's going to be asked to do a lot. And that gives me a ton of concern as he would be protecting Nathan. This isn't just a preseason game as well. So looking forward, as we've said, it is not looking good moving forward.
No. In
the immediate
Ryan Walker Hunt is the guy that's 6'6", 310 pounds. Sounds like a big dude, but sitting on the practice roster right now. He could be activated along with Berwick, depending on how these injuries go.
Maybe Donovan's the guy that they're storing, and they can get Josh Donovan, because he actually didn't look bad. He's got starts. If you can get him as the right tackle, then you can keep Schlugger at right guard, and then you can keep Una at left guard or whatever, and somewhat keep some continuity. But this is, and I'll say this, another thing I'm going to add tonight, who didn't look good again tonight, Cole? Michael Couture did not look good again.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to pile too much on him. As I said, I was hoping Tyler Packer was going to be the heir apparent to Michael Couture a few seasons ago. That obviously doesn't happen. But one that I think at some point in the next, whether it's this upcoming CFL draft in the spring, I think one that they need to try to take a swing at that position and find an interior offensive lineman that not only can maybe play center, but can be that, for the maybe first few years, can play guard position, can play all 3 of the interior lineman spots, I think is something that they need to find. I think, drafting Una was awesome. I don't know, he can't play center. He's an interior lineman that can play both guard spots. So I don't know his development. Obviously he got demoted this year, which isn't the greatest sign in terms of his development, but they need to continue filling that well at offensive line and finding guys in there moving forward. My next thing I wanted to throw at you guys, Brian, you mentioned Lucky Whitehead, I believe, tweeting something. Kyron Moore, I think somebody mentioned Dominique Rhymes. Is there anybody else that comes to mind in terms of street free agents, offensive linemen? I was trying to think earlier. There's really none that come to mind in terms of anybody with CFL experience that's out there that's not on a team.
I know Manny Arsenault was lobbying for a job on Twitter the other day.
No way.
He's got a season left in him, he says.
That's awesome. I could see one more of the Manny marches. I'll take one more of those.
Yeah, I think his best before date is probably a little past, but yeah, I mean, maybe Lucky Whitehead is a guy you might look at, but not too far removed from the league. But I don't know, man. My first call is to Hergy Mayala. Get him back in there. He knows the offense. He had a good preseason. So Arlen Bruce's son Don't know who that is, but does he have a son that plays football?
I think he's still in university, but that's funny. It'd be throwing it back to 2011.
Yeah. Can you imagine Arlen Bruce's son comes in and leads the Lions to the Grey Cup?
I thought I saw a comment about Lule earlier too. We might have to bring Travis back.
I think they were talking about bringing him as a quarterback coach.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that's kind of what it was. I think Travis is in a family business doing some.
Yeah, he's doing, I think, well for himself where he is right now.
He's doing wealth management stuff, so I think he's probably good.
Bryce, I thought you made a good
But
point.
Brian Burnham, he's only 36. Bring him out of retirement. Come on, Brian, one more season.
Bryce, you made a good point about Jarius Jackson and him being a good option for quarterback coach. To me, because I was thinking of like obviously Winnipeg Tree, I don't think there would be anybody that really has ties with Buck. That's a younger coach. Jason Hogan, obviously, we don't want anything to do with Jason Hogan after last year with Winnipeg, and he's a running back coach more specifically. But I think that's a huge thing of, as you said, like of wearing too many hats. It's not to fault Buck Pierce with the quarterback situation. He has a lot of roles as a head coach to not be really paying attention to Nathan on the sideline. So we need someone like whoever.
Well, realistically, you could do what Jason Moss did. And I keep going back to Jason Moss because I find a lot of similarities between Jason Moss and Buck in the way that they've gotten into their roles as head coaches. Anthony Calvillo has been the offensive coordinator, I think, for the last, at least the entire time that Jason Moss has been in Montreal, or the majority of it. He's been the OC. Now, that didn't mean Anthony Calvillo was calling the plays. Jason Moss was still calling the plays. But to have that guy that thinks the same, understands it, but may look at it from a different angle is huge as a coach, because sometimes when you don't have that person that can check you, you miss things. You get like tunnel vision, and this is what we're doing. This is how I want to do it, and we're going to do it this way, and I'm going to run through the wall until I can't run through the wall anymore. Like another guy that's local even right now is, do the Lions look in the offseason? Because you're not going to do it now, but do you look at like Kahari Jones?
Yeah.
He's at UBC, right? Like he, again, is a guy that has experience at this level. Like those are some of the things, that you start asking, okay, do we look to bring in somebody that has experience playing quarterback that is now coaching in this league? And that's why Jarius made the most sense to me, because the relationship they already have of playing together. He probably knows how Buck thinks in a lot of ways. And I'm pretty sure he was potentially going to go to Winnipeg as their OC to replace Buck when he left last year. So I'd be interested in something like that for the Lions, because I think Buck needs to wear less hats.
Isn't Jarius with somebody right now?
He's with where is he? I think he's in Saskatchewan.
It's not Edmonton right now because he obviously got let go.
It's Saskatchewan. I think he's in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I think so too. But then again,
Corey Mace is just freaking building a super staff.
But then again, we just spent like the first part of the show talking about bringing in all these old coaches. Like maybe it's time for some fresh blood in BC. Like,
He's in Calgary.
Is it Calgary?
Oh, Calgary. That's where he is. Okay.
VA. All right. Yeah. Guys, we've been at this for almost 2 hours, and I think we've talked this to death. 290 people in the chat right now. We thank you guys for all stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the extra coverage, as disappointing as that game was. But we got to be here in the good times and the bad times. And look, none of us want to come in here and rip players or rip coaches, and again, the players and coaches really don't care what we think. It's up to them to go into that room and figure things out. And it's up to the organization to find some replacements for some of these guys. And I remember watching a Lions locker room video one time with Wally Bono, and he said, guys, he always used to talk like this, guys, my job is to win. If you can't help me win, you're no good to me, and I'll replace you. That's the attitude that the Lions have to have. We're here to win. We're here to do a job. And if you can't help us do that, it's time to move on. Right? So everybody in that locker room has to look in the mirror. Everybody has to look to the guy on the right and the left of them and flush this and try and figure out a way to fix it. Because we can't make changes overnight. It's going to take a while to fix this. And hopefully we still have an obtainable season by the time we figure it out. But any last thoughts, guys, before we shut this down?
24-hour rule, boys. We flush
Yes,
it and
sir.
start new tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yep.
well said, Bryce. I think it's just, let's take this one on the chin. Let's learn from it. Ups and downs, peaks and valleys of a long CFL season. Let's hope that this is the outlier and we can go on a run here and get back to the team that I think we were hoping for. But I'm excited for next week and hoping the Lions can get on the win, get one on the win column at least.
Well, I'm glad we made you feel better, East Eric. Like I said, coming in here, I think on Twitter, I said, this might turn into a therapy session for Lions fans. So if we helped in any way, we were happy we were able to do so. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. We'll be back with a show prior to heading to Kelowna this week. We got lots to talk about. Hopefully we'll hear some good news on the injury front for Passant, and maybe hopefully Keon Hasher will be back and we'll have a little bit more of a potent offense when we head to Kelowna. But until then, we'll talk to you on Wednesday night. We'll probably have a guest from the Calgary side of things to talk about the Stampeders a little bit. But until then, everybody, thanks for stopping by. All 300 of you that came in here tonight, we appreciate you. If you haven't already, please head over to the YouTube channel, drop that sub for us. We'd much appreciate it. But other than that, have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the games tomorrow, triple header, and we'll talk to you real soon. Roar, you Lions, roar. Peace.